Have you ever dreamed what it would be like as a cheater in the 18th century of France? Ever wonder if you could untangle a web of lies and intrigue to take your claim amongst the noble? If yes, then Devolver Digital's Card Shark might be exactly for you, as you set out on a journey to traverse the politics of the 18th century with only your wit and a deck at hand. Though, it raises the question if you're playing the game or the game plays you. In a world of trickery, who knows if the game can deliver. There's one thing that is unmistakable about Card Shark, and that is its style. Every scenery and location feels like a painting come to life, and there's quite a variety at play here as you progress from one deceit to the next. Accompanied by historically fitting music by Andrea Pocadoro, the art of Nikolai Toshinsky drags you into the 18th century and adds its own flourishes to bring some light comedy. Even something as simple as your silent protagonist making a strange gesture to show his reactions adds that little charm and personality. Yet, the game is, appropriately so, all about the game itself. This isn't your traditional card-based video game. You're not building a deck throughout your adventure like with Inscription or any classic Yu-Gi-Oh game, but rather learning various ways to cheat and gamble your way through France. While a base knowledge of the suits is swiftly taught, you go through a wide variety of tutorials that continue to increase in difficulty over time. With your trusty teacher, Comte de Saint-Germain, inspired by the real-world historical figure, you start to find your way into nobles' pockets. The game, however, isn't just about tricking people out of their money. There's actually an interesting historical mystery at play as each new game helps you find your way closer and closer to unraveling the so-called 12 bottles of milk. It adds a wonderful splendor to the experience as you swindle money and information out of your prey, which leads to some rather tense moments. Don't be surprised if you find yourself facing the barrel of the gun or forced to duel to save your hide. Nothing is more sacred than information, and people will make sure to keep that as safe as possible. There's a charm to how this game uses its rather simple concept. Each new trick comes with specific control inputs and some quite memorable names. Some even include unique flourishes where quick thinking will be your friend. Just don't be alarmed if you make mistakes, as a lot of the game is practice. Sometimes you jump into one and think you have it all figured out, only for the complexities or the times to just not work out in your favor. The game loves throwing in something to surprise you. So there's a learning curve that mainly depends on you investing the time to figure out some of the tricks, especially as it starts mixing and matching them later on. It's less about the difficulty, but more about the execution and how the game tries to surprise you. There is a menu with the overview of what techniques you've learned, but you do not have an option to instantly rehearse them in case you, for example, took a break for a few days and are having trouble getting back into the swing of things. So if you haven't kept every step of every technique memorized, you'll face some trouble until you get the next tutorial. Ironically, you can try out some techniques at your base of operations, but only for very specific non-card tricks, which you use the least. So the game could really use an NPC or a location where you can just try out the scam you learned 20 plus games ago and might be having some issues remembering. Otherwise, you are very dependent on if that trick will return in your travels to a new location, which most of the time is with something new added in. Sadly, this is the one big gripe with the game. It's a great experience, and the trickery combined with the politics make for this great gameplay loop, but most of the game is a tutorial. You learn how to do the trick on your way there, put it together with the pressure of not being found out, and doing it for a few rounds until the other player runs out of money. If it weren't for the various tricks and some of the story surprises, it could get quite repetitive. But you also don't spend enough time either with one trick to really master it. Your only option to do so is to constantly redo it in a tutorial setting, which is commonly a simpler version of what you're about to face. Card Shark will test you and make sure you can think on your feet. It's a special kind of experience that, even with its more tutorial-esque nature, gives you some really challenging moments. It's at its best when it even surprises you, such as someone else using some familiar strategies. If you've ever been interested in sleight of hand, just want a somewhat different type of card game, this is definitely one not to miss out on. Even as it can test your patience at times, its stunning visuals and music will definitely keep you calm.